of Hudson. Very good. We're on the camera, so that's good. I'm Ron Strobel, Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Jim Ahern.
Yeah, well, I think Rich was right, but I had a long morning this morning. Yes. Well, bow our heads, please. Lord, thank you. Thank you for all that you do for us, and especially the kind of efforts and personal time and treasure and everything that Rotarians do to help us make this community, first of all, make themselves better people. And secondly, to make this community a better place to live in, both for the ones that live there, the ones that visit, and the ones that want to live here. So in his name, pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jim. And lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, James Field.
Get the flag up. Oh, I guess we have a flag right here. So we don't have the words anymore, so hopefully. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you watch the school board meetings, we have usually the third graders come and do the pledge with it. Yeah. Anyway, the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, James. And now to introduce our guests. No guests. Well, I thought we had a guest in the back, but maybe not.
Oh, she's applying as a member.
Oh, really?
Yes, she is. Thank you. Well, she's going to be sitting there. Good morning, Rotarians. If you please stand up and join me in song. Today, we're going to be singing a Rotarian song. It's to the tune of "Oh, When the Saints." We did this once before and it was fabulous. All right. Oh, when the saints, oh, when the saints, oh, when the saints go marching in. Yes, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. And when the sun, and when the sun, and when the sun begins to shine, yes, I want to be in that number when the sun begins to shine. Oh, when we meet, oh, when we meet, oh, when we meet at Rotary. Yes, I want to be in that number when we meet at Rotary. Good job, everyone.
Thank you. That's great. And our president, Father Joe Boisel.
What did I draw? Oh, I knocked my bag.
Oh, you lost your name.
Nobody will know who I am. Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Do we have guests? If we do, yeah, good morning. A couple of announcements to begin with. We need a replacement. It's sad to say, we're not losing him, but Tom Petropoulos is getting a new job. It is a new job or just a new, yeah, okay. So he begins a new job in 2 weeks. So he's this week and next week, the last opportunities for him to run our audio visual back in the back. So if you have an interest in that, if you could do it for a month, to patch us over till we find somebody else, any of those sorts of things would be helpful. So let me know if that's something that you know how to do, would like to do. Tom will certainly train you on whatever you would need to do. This is our last week for collections for the Freedom House in Kent, Ohio. So if you'd like to participate in that, I don't see Terry here, but if there's nothing here you want to drop off, contact me or Terry, let us know. We'll make sure that we pick up whatever it is you have to give or find a way for you to drop it off. One of my, one more thing before I get to that. I just received my packet, it looks like, for the gala. Marilyn, do you want to say anything about that? All right, you want me to save that then? I'm gonna hold on to that for just 1 minute. I'm reading yesterday, as I do in the morning, the Wall Street Journal, and I came across this article that was really disturbing to me. And it's the title of it, America Pulls Back from Values That Once Defined It. And it begins, patriotism, religious faith, having children and other priorities that help define the national character for generations are receding in importance for Americans. I was really stunned by that. As I went on to read it, I thought how, for me, how sad those values, to lose those values as Americans. And one of the things I love about Rotary is that we continue to cherish those, that we continue to open in prayer, in an ecumenical prayer, that we say the Pledge of Allegiance by memory, that we we gather together and encourage one another in these values. And so I just want to a shout out to great to be a Rotarian. And so now I'm going to invite Marilyn to come up and talk to us about these packets that are coming your way. Are you ready to bring Chief Barnes up as well? Okay. Woo-hoo!
Thank you so much. It's my privilege this morning to introduce our guest speaker, Chief Barnes. Jerry Barnes has been a fireman since, well, heavens, a long time. I think I saw 1978 in that resume. He's been our assistant chief since the early 2000s. And actually this year is his 10th anniversary of being the chief of the department. He's worn a lot of hats while he's done that. He was the primary medic with our EMS when it was in some of its earlier days. And he's going to give us an update. He's a longtime friend of Rotary. We've had more than one previous fundraiser that has helped support EMS. The last time that he spoke with us was actually under President Tom Tobin, when it was the beginning of the pandemic, and it was our very first Zoom meeting. And at the conclusion of that meeting, Tom said, "What can we do?" And we did it. We did it. We raised $25,000 to supply the volunteers and the paid staff at EMS with the necessary personal protective equipment that they needed. So it's time for us to step up to the plate, do it again. Here we go.
Thank you, Marilyn. Morning, everyone. Absolutely my pleasure to come back and speak to everyone again. It has been 3 years and it's been a pretty tumultuous 3 years. All of us have experienced the ups and downs and the ins and outs of COVID and all the other things that have gone along with that. And those of us in the emergency medical service have had the misfortune, I guess you would say, of having to bear the brunt of all of the things that we've had to do to kind of pivot, I guess is the polite word or the political word that a lot of people are using, and change the way we did our job. And we couldn't have done that without the support that Rotary gave us, and so many other people gave us to be able to give us the necessary equipment that we didn't have at the time. And you'll hear later on in the program some of the excessive amounts of equipment that we needed to gain and still need to have in order to be able to continue to do our job in the fashion that the citizens of Hudson and everyone that comes to this town fully expect and deserve to have to be able to do our job the way that we do it. When Marilyn asked me to come back and talk. I asked, what would you like me to talk about? Because anybody that knows me, I can pretty much talk about anything and blather on and on and on. And Marilyn, please give me the high sign if I go on too long here, because I can go on for a long time. And she gave me a kind of a bullet point list of a few things she'd like to talk about. So I'll get started. She asked me to talk about the staff. And it's been absolutely my privilege to be the chief of EMS. Those of you that don't know, it's two different groups, fire and EMS. I've been the chief of EMS for 9 years. I've been with EMS for 30, this is my 30th year there. And with being the chief there for 9 years now, it's a group that is very, very special because it's one of the few, very, very few EMS departments in the entire state that is a very eclectic mix of volunteers, part-time paid staff, and full-time staff that is just, and it's kind of an overused word, but we are the most diverse staff of any department that I know of. And many of my chief friends are so envious of what I have because unlike many predominantly male-driven fire department EMS services in the world today, I have a pretty much 50-50 male-female group. I have 18-year-olds and I have 70-year-olds. I have college educated, I have high school educated. I have every spectrum of political affiliation, religion, every version of educational level and knowledge base that you can imagine amongst the group of EMS members that I have. And it makes for some interesting conversations around the dinner table down there. We have people that can speak 6 languages. We have people that are from every nationality you can imagine. We have every orientation that you can imagine, having openly gay people. We have lesbians. We have gay men. We have straight married people. We have people with no children. We have people with many, many children. And amongst that very, very diverse group, inevitably, the right person is on duty at the right time for that right patient that happens to speak Portuguese, that doesn't speak English very well. And lo and behold, there's the Portuguese speaking person on duty that day. Or the single mom that is scared to death because she's having a problem, and the single mom on the department is the EMT that day and is able to relate very directly to that patient. And it's just amazing how that seems to happen on a regular basis. And that just fascinates me. But back to my bullet points. I've already drifted away. The staff. We'll talk first at the administrative, supervisory, support staff. It is unchanged. I'm comparing what we were at in April of 2000, April of 2020, when I was last year, compared to today. So in the last 3 years, that administrative, supervisory, support staff hasn't changed. It's the same 18 people. We've got our wonderful medical director, Dr. Jay Carter. You remember Sue's husband, and myself as the chief, my assistant chief Scott, 4 of our part-time captains, which you remember Sue Carter is one of them. We have 2 full-time lieutenants, my executive assistant, a part-time chief engineer that keeps the trucks running, and 7 part-time EMS instructors. They teach our EMT class. We have an EMT class twice a year. We're an accredited EMT class that we teach new people, many of them Kent State students that come in, and they get their EMT certification through the city of Hudson and go on to other further careers. Some of them go on to become physicians, and they get their first foray into becoming an emergency medical service person right here in Hudson. So that group of people hasn't changed in the 3 years. The field staff has changed a little bit. Back in 2020, we had 44 total people. We had 28 volunteers. Predominantly, those were EMT EMTs with a couple of paramedics sprinkled in. And we had 16 that were part-time paid paramedics. As of today, we have a field staff of 39, with 18 of them being volunteers, again, mostly EMTs, and 21 being part-time paid paramedics. People ask what changed. You note that number. We lost 10 volunteers, but it's not quite what it seems. It's not like we lost them because they quit because of COVID or anything like that. The biggest difference was many job opportunities came up because of COVID. They started paying EMTs, desperate in need of EMTs to come into the private sector, where before EMTs were not routinely paid highly. So we lost a number of EMTs that way. Family commitments changed. A lot of people were having to homeschool their children. A lot of people's jobs changed and they were working from home and they needed to stay at home and couldn't make that commitment anymore to volunteer the time required. And so some of the volunteers couldn't continue to do that. And then there were a few that think about it, before COVID hit, being a volunteer in EMT in Hudson wasn't really a big significant life risk. COVID hit, and now every patient you went on had the potential to cough on you, touch you, bleed on you, any of the other bodily fluids get on you, and you could lose your life. Kind of a eye-opening thing. And to explain to a 20-year-old person still in college that we need you to volunteer, come in at no money, give of your time to your city and risk your life. Sometimes their mindset isn't quite there yet, and they haven't found that quite dedication like some of the people that we have, the long-time members, have kind of adjusted to that and accepted that. So we did have a few people that left because of that. But all in all, we do still have, we're only 5 less total in the total EMS staff than we were 3 years ago. So, and we do have, I believe it's currently 8 more people in the pipeline that we're in the process of bringing in. So it is a fluctuating number that come and go. So we can be up on part-timers and down on volunteers, and then up on volunteers and down on part-timers. So that does come and go. It's a very fluid thing. Did some checking on the call types. During that time, you probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that we had a 113% increase in psychiatric and behavioral type calls during those 3 years of COVID. Just amazing the impact that COVID had on people's minds. Some of them were very legitimate. Some of them were not so legitimate. We had to deal with every one of them. Then general medical. Sometimes it was the flu. Sometimes it was just very basic things that had nothing to do with COVID, but in the world of people's lives, they needed to call an ambulance for it. And that increased by 68%. We had a increase of 387 additional calls for, I'm feeling weak, I'm feeling dizzy, I'm just not feeling right. And we transported almost 400 additional people for that general medical unknown type of an issue. And then a surprise for us, a lot of people were staying home, not going to work as much. We had a 42% decrease in motor vehicle accidents. So that was a kind of a surprise to me when I was running the numbers. During that 3-year time period, at the end of 2019, right before COVID kind of hit there in March of 2020. So for the entire year of 2019, we had 2,048 EMS calls. And we're on track at this point in 2023 to have 2,500 EMS calls. So an increase of 450 EMS calls we're anticipating in the year for this year. So we're seeing a pretty big increase. And there's not one specific thing. Yeah, we still do have an increase in site calls. We do have an increase in senior citizen calls because we're putting in more nursing homes, senior care facilities. So we do have an increase in those calls. but not exponentially. It's not a huge thing, but it is something that's a statistical thing that we do see. But it's something that that we're aware of, that the more senior facilities we have, the more we have to be prepared for that, because geriatric calls are unique. And it's something that we have to be prepared for. And some of the 18 and 20-year-olds that we have aren't quite as prepared for dealing with geriatrics, just like some people aren't quite as prepared to deal with pediatrics, where people that have children might be better prepared to deal with pediatric calls. So again, it's finding the right person in the right position to deal with the right patient at the right time. It's something that we're really proud of, is having that very diverse group of crew members. Another thing that Marilyn asked me to look at was kind of talk about that personal protective equipment that your wonderfully generous donation was able to help us with. And so I kind of went down, and Sue is kind of the primary, I don't know that we have a specific title, but she's the procurement expert, the inventory specialist, the person that pays attention to the price of every piece of equipment that we buy, every supply inventory thing that we get. And it was a nightmare for her during COVID because of the changes that sometimes happen on a daily basis. So I went through, and I've just got a bullet point list. I'll run down some of them. We had literally safety guidelines coming from CDC, Summit County Public Health, OSHA, NIOSH, and they started out, they had a big change when COVID hit. And then a week later, a new change. And then CDC disagreed with Summit County Public Health. And then NIOSH jumped in and said, nope, we're going to say this. And then Ohio OSHA said that, but federal OSHA said something different. And you just didn't know who to hang your hat on and make your standards by. We ended up pretty much following Summit County Public Health as our go-to standard, and obviously trusting very much Sue's husband, Dr. Carter, our medical director. He was my go-to guy. Dr. Carter, please help me make sense of all these different guidelines and who do we need to follow, because it's his medical license that we're all working under at Hudson EMS. So if he's not comfortable with it, it doesn't make sense for us to be trying to adopt it. So he was kind of the go-to guy to help us guide us through it. And there were literally times that those guidelines changed on a daily basis. And so we had to be able to, again, that ugly word, pivot and flex and change what we did. And there were times you watched on the news and everybody had to wear a mask. And then only people that were vaccinated didn't have to wear a mask. And then people that had 2 shots and 1 shot. You all experienced it yourself, and it was just ridiculous. And then we got into that ugliness of counterfeit equipment, counterfeit masks. An N95 wasn't really an N95 mask, or a surgical mask, the ones that weren't the puffed out round cup type mask. It was a 2-ply mask, not a 3-ply mask. And it wasn't a medical grade or a surgical grade mask. And it came from, where did it come from? Who made it? And it was on the package touted to say 3-ply, but when you pull it apart, it was really 2-ply. My goodness, the effort made by Sue and the people that assisted her in back channeling and checking where was this equipment coming from, because we were getting donations from wonderful citizens. We had dentists and doctors and other health facilities in town. Hey, we've got an extra box of these things. And they'd bring them, drop them off. We'd research them and find out, nope, they're counterfeit. No, they're not medical grade. And so we couldn't use them. We could use them for other things, like when we were out in the bays cleaning the trucks and you're by yourself, you could wear that, but not when you're with a patient. We had to have the highest quality medical grade 3-ply surgical mask to put on a patient. And we had to have the highest quality medical grade N95 or KN95 mask for us to wear to protect A, ourselves, B, our patients, and then C, our families. Because what are we taking from the patient, from the hospital, from all the patients in the hospital, into ourselves to take home to then breathe onto our families. Nightmarish thoughts that are going on in our heads. So all those things had to be checked. And Sue just did a fantastic job of making sure that we only had the best, highest quality equipment. And that's what a biggest part of the $25,000 donation went to, was making sure that we could say thank you to the donations that we got, set them aside to use them for non-medical, non-patient related uses, but then be able to purchase what used to be $1.50 KN95 max that became $2.50, $3.50, $4.50, $6.50, $9 for one mask. It was just ridiculous how the prices soared as COVID kept going. And we need thousands of masks. And my budget was set July the year before. So challenging. Then what happens? Everybody needs masks. Everybody needs gloves. What are the suppliers that have the quality, good medical grade stuff? They're in short supply, so they start rationing. Sue orders 50 boxes of gloves. You can have 6. Wow, that doesn't help us very long. When you go through 4 pairs of gloves with a patient, you get in the truck, you put on a pair of gloves, you get with the patient, you get back in the truck, you go to drive it, you take the gloves off, you get to the hospital, you put on another pair of gloves, you come out, you take them off, you get back, you go to clinic, put on another pair. You burn through gloves at an amazing, alarming rate. Masks, you can't wear the same mask more than once with more than one patient. Masks get disposed of. They're not interchangeable to be reused. So being able to do that, back orders, what used to be next day delivery now is 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 9-week back orders for the supplies. Many people aren't aware. You think an N95 mask, you pay the $6.50 for a quality medical grade N95 mask. It comes in, you plop it on your face and you're good. Nope, it's got to be fit tested. You realize there are 9 different sizes of N95 masks? And we have the 60 different members that all need to have the proper sized mask fit tested to their face. And you have to have them have the mask, find the right size, and then be breathing in a confined space with this really smelly stuff and make sure that it doesn't seep through the seams around their nose and their mouth, and have them grimace and talk and bend and twist and pull. And that's how you fit test somebody. And there's a machine that you have available on the fire side. We have a machine with that to be able to tell, are you leaking any of the breath that you're breathing out, exhaling? And when you're breathing in, are any of those particulates in the parts per million breathing and getting into you? So it's a ridiculously laborious process to make sure that we find the right size mask for every patient or every person on the department. And an N95 mask from one supplier isn't necessarily the same size as an N95 mask from another supplier. So you have to fit test every brand to every person on the EMS, depending on the manufacturer. Again, just one of those little nuances that creates a problem. During the height of COVID, we purchased over 10,000 N95 masks and KN95 masks. We purchased over 12,000 of the 3-ply surgical masks that we use. We purchased over 70,000 of the medical grade gloves, because the medical grade give extra protection from getting any bodily fluids through. 70,000 gloves for only having 2,000 runs. It's amazing what we call that the burn rate, how quickly you go through gloves, needing to have those. We were also stockpiling a whole lot of other things during that time. Eye protection, face shields, gowns, IV fluids, disinfectant wipes, hand sanitizer, thermometers, oxygen masks, all those things. We became kind of the hoarder house. We had it in every office, they're still in my office, every nook and cranny that you could, and we didn't want them all in the same place. What if, God forbid, we had a fire at the safety center and all of the supplies are in one closet? We lost everything. So we had them in multiple different locations spread out, just in that eventuality if anything would happen. We were so blessed. We had a local business owner. He had 2 battery operated ionized sprayer units that sprayed a disinfectant spray that used so far less disinfectant spray. We had been using it with like a pump sprayer, like a garden sprayer, and spray it in it and then wipe it down and stuff. And this cut almost by 90% the amount of spray disinfectant we had to use. And after every patient, we had to spray the entire truck down. And then once a day, we're spraying the entire safety center down, everything that we touched. So we weren't taking anything home to our families. And that's going to be a fire call. Let me just make sure if it's anything bad. Excuse me. Okay. So we had a local vendor very generously donate 2 of these battery operated sprayers to us. And at the height of COVID, we were using those regularly. We still have them. We still use them. And it cut our requirement for buying disinfectant, which we were buying big 5-gallon tubs of it and burning through it on a regular basis. Like I said, cut it by almost 90% the amount that we were using. And that was a very generous donation that company and that owner of the company made for us. And that was a very, very nice surprise, just out of nowhere. He popped in and gave that to us. This is kind of a funny story, but a telling story. I got a very cryptic phone call from the Summit County EMA saying, Chief, the strategic national stockpile has been released by the president, and you will be receiving a number of cases of gowns, gloves, face shields, surgical masks, and N95 masks in the near future. They have been allocated to every fire department and EMS in the state in amounts as determined by the size of your department. And it's all secret squirrel stuff. And we can't tell you where to come. We can't tell you what day it's going to be, but sometime in the next 30 days, these allocations will be released. We can't tell you how much you're going to get, but stay tuned and we'll let you know. And so about 3 weeks went by, and I got a call on my cell one morning and about 8 o'clock in the morning and said, you have to be here by noon, bring a large vehicle. What you're going to get won't fit in a standard SUV. And here's the address. You must come yourself. You can't send anybody else, and don't tell anybody where you're coming. Wow. Secret squirrel stuff again. So I show up at the predisposed place, and I was told, don't get out of your car. And I was surprised they didn't put a hood over me. And they opened up the back of, I had a big Chevy Suburban SUV thing. They opened up the back, they loaded it up. They had more, they had to put it in the front seat. I'm driving back and it's packed up against the windshield in the passenger front seat. And I'm all stuffed in there. I had to sign my life away. I'm surprised they didn't need a blood sample for me to get out, show my driver's license and everything. And I get back and we start unloading, and we've got cases and cases of gowns. Fantastic. Don't need that many gowns, but got a lot of gowns. This is wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. We've got cases and cases of the face shields. We don't need that many face shields, but this is all good. It's fantastic. Open up, we see gloves. Open up, got multiple cases of gloves, sized extra small. I'm not an extra small guy. We've got a few of our wonderful women at EMS that are extra small handed, not many. So it wasn't great. I think we could use maybe 12 boxes out of the multiple cases. So it didn't work out perfectly for the gloves, and they weren't the brand that we wanted, the super duper extra thick, super special gloves that we wanted. So we had them for other uses around the station. We used them in the EMT class and for other things, but they weren't really the savior that we were looking for gloves. And as they're opening up, I find the paperwork that comes with it. And what I'm really looking for is the N95s. That was what we were desperate for, because we were down to our last N95s. Everything was back ordered, and I see N95s -8. I've got 8 cases of N95s. This is fantastic. We're looking for it. Can't find the boxes, the cases of N95s. And there is a paper lunch bag amongst it. There are 8 N95 masks inside the paper lunch bag. Wasn't quite the solution to our N95 problem that we were looking for, but that's what the Strategic National Stockpile gave to Hudson. We got 4 allocations from the National Stockpile. The next time we got 12 N95 masks. It grew each time, but not substantially in N95s. So we've still got cases and cases of gowns and face shields that we haven't opened, and we've got a lot of extra small gloves. But it never was our solution to N95 masks. Some of the lessons learned, we very quickly, Sue and her partner in crime, Richard, really helped learn what the term burn rate meant for us, how quickly we go through stuff, what we needed to have an extra supply, where we could use this, where we could use that when it came to our medical supply usage. And so we started tracking that and factoring in and making sure that we knew what could be substituted for what. And early on, before we got the Strategic National Supply, we realized you could use garbage bags for splash gowns, poke holes in it and slide it over you. There were many substitutes that could be made, but there is no safe substitute for a properly fit tested medical grade N95 mask, because that is the life or death decision for you, for your family, for the patient. There's no alternative. There was nothing. And so that was where that, as they say, the rubber meets the road. You either have it or you don't. And that was that life-changing thing, is making sure you don't run out. And there were days that we were down to very, very few, but we never did run out. We were very, very fortunate. So kudos to Sue and everybody that did all that they could to keep us in N95 masks when we needed it. As I mentioned, that our glove supply, we do have a very high quality extra protection brand of gloves for our providers. All the extra hours that Sue spent reaching out to the vendors and the contacts, determining the best pricing. And sometimes that ended up being a daily task for her. We did get a lot of donations, as I mentioned, from the dentist offices, the health clubs in town, that when they heard the story, because I went and I was pretty free about talking to different groups about what our needs were. I even went on social media. I'm not on social media, but the city's social media site. I talked about, please, if you don't need to, stop calling Hudson EMS for your cut finger. Take yourself to your own doctor. Don't call the squad, because now we've burned through 4 sets of gloves to take you for your cut finger when that's not necessary. So please reconsider, reevaluate the situation. And we did see a reduction in the less emergent cases. And so the public helped out, but those donations that we got, we were able to reallocate and repurpose those for other non-patient related EMS activities. And we were so grateful for all those things that the community stepped up, and including especially what Rotary and EMS Outreach and everybody did, because we really couldn't have done and continued that quality patient care that everybody's kind of come to expect from Hudson EMS that we give. We couldn't have continued to provide that during COVID without those donations of equipment and funding. We couldn't have done that, and we couldn't have kept our people safe without that. And that ongoing and overwhelming support from the community, it was just so emphasized and so obvious during COVID. And it was something I just wanted to take that moment to really reemphasize that that's really what that big donation from the organization did for us. It was so carefully used, carefully managed. And we do still have a few of the items yet today that we squirreled away to make sure that we were never out of. I mean, and we still have things, we overstocked and backstocked. We had some of the wonderful seamstresses in town made us homemade masks in case we did run out of N95 masks. We could double up on homemade cloth masks, put them over a 2-ply surgical mask and make our own kind of halfway N95 mask. It's better than nothing. It's not as good, but it's better than nothing, and then dispose of the cloth mask. So we did things like that. The last thing I wanted to talk about today was, and Marilyn, if you wouldn't mind, you can go ahead and pass that around. This is the current older version of the item that we're hoping that the gala is going to be able to get for Hudson EMS through the potential donation. This is what we affectionately call our RAD 57 pulse oximeter, and it is basically a portable device that is an instantaneous, gives us the instantaneous ability to, by just clipping that on your finger, just like you do when you go to the doctor, they clip that on your finger and it'll tell you what your pulse is, tell you what your oxygen level is in your body. We do that, we clip it on your finger, and if you've either been in a house fire or if you have some sort of a situation where you have a bad furnace or a situation where we're worried about the carbon monoxide level in your body, we get an instant reading and we know instantaneously what that level is in your blood. Where before we had to take you to the hospital, they had to draw blood, and we had to wait for that arterial blood gas level to come back. And sometimes that could take a very long time to get back from the lab. And then they know what your carbon monoxide level is in your blood. And then they could determine, oh, you have to go to a hyperbaric chamber. And if you don't know what a hyperbaric chamber is, basically that's a tube that you get your entire body slid into, and you are forced oxygen that gets pumped into it under a high pressure, hyperbaric high pressure, and it kind of infuses into your body for a long duration of time to be able to force that carbon monoxide out of your body. And people aren't quite aware of a lot about carbon monoxide. It's called the silent killer because it's the thing, say your furnace goes bad in the middle of the night, it's the thing you don't wake up to. It's the silent killer because it kills you in your sleep. That's why you need carbon monoxide detector in your house. It'll wake you up so you don't die in your sleep. Early symptoms, many times it's mistaken for the flu. When we first got our first RAD 57s, that first year, we had 8 patients called up, said they thought they had the bad flu. We clipped that on them. They had carbon monoxide poisoning. We rushed them to the hospital. They got treated and were alive because that device gave us initial urgent reading in the field. We could get oxygen on them instantly instead of waiting for the 20-minute trip to the hospital, wait for them to have the blood taken, wait for the lab to get the results, and then determine what to do. We instantly knew it and got high flow oxygen on them in the field right there in Hudson because of that device. And they are aging, and we're looking for new ones. They're not cheap. They're almost $6,000 per device. So we're hoping to have one on each one of our primary vehicles. So we're looking for 3 of them, and that's the goal that Marilyn and the group and we're trying to make happen through the donation from the gala. When the symptoms get worse for carbon monoxide, it can become critical. It can give you cardiac damage. It can cause miscarriages, seizures. And then when it gets critical and a high level, permanent brain damage leading to death. So it's just one of those critical things. Everybody's got a furnace, and unless it's an electric furnace, if you have a gas device of any kind in your house, gas dryer, gas stove, gas furnace, gas hot water heater, any of those devices, gas fireplace, you can have carbon monoxide in your home. Your car, you wouldn't believe how many people forget to turn their car off in the garage. I don't know how that happens, but we get dozens of those a year. The people pull in, they start talking on their cell phone, and they get out and they leave their car running. They close the garage door, go in their house. 2 hours later, their carbon monoxide detector goes off. And they call the fire department. Why is this stupid thing beeping? And I go out and I find their car running in the garage. It's amazing how it happens. So it sounds weird, but it really does happen. So this RAD 57 is a critical device. We're looking for more of them. Now, should I wrap it up, or do we have a little bit more time? Okay, I'll wrap my portion up with a quick story. It's more than 30 years ago. I was a young lieutenant on the fire department at the time. Had a very good friend of mine. She's a dispatcher. Patty calls me. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. She calls me. She goes, "Jerry, I'm really sorry to wake you up, but I've got this guy. He called 911, and he said he can't get his window open. And she used the term, she goes, my spidey sense is tingling, something weird is going on, and I don't know what. But all the police officers are out on a DUI traffic stop. I don't have anybody to send. Could you do me a favor and go check out and see what's going on with this guy?" I grew up with Patty. She was also a firefighter on top of being a police dispatcher. Trust Patty with my life. So I said, "Sure, Patty." Woke up, drove the 3 miles up to the house, knocked on the door. Gentleman came to the door and he said, "Can you help me get my expletive window open?" I said, "Sure, sir." And I walked in, and my carbon monoxide detector that I carried on my hip started screaming. And I'm like, "Well, okay." And I said, "Sir, are you home alone?" And he goes, "No, but I don't have time for this. Can you just help me get this window open?" I said, "Well, we don't have time to get the window open. We need to get everybody out." And he said, "No, we need to get the window open." So I said, "Sir, can you stand out here?" And got him out into the garage. And I said, "Who else is here?" And he said, "My wife and 2 kids." Went upstairs. Wife and 2 kids are unconscious upstairs on the 2nd floor of the house. Called for the fire department, called for EMS, carried the wife and 2 kids outside the house, got them outside in the front lawn. Everybody shows up, and the wife, she woke up there. The 2 kids, 2 children breathe faster than adults do, a much smaller body mass. They were really sick, really bad. They had gotten much higher level of carbon monoxide. They needed to be rushed to the hospital in a very serious, significant high level of carbon monoxide. And if Patty, the dispatcher, hadn't gotten that spidey tingling sense, if she hadn't called me, woken me up, if I hadn't said yes, gone up there, if this guy hadn't woken up, he just smelled something weird because the furnace went bad because a squirrel had dropped and plugged the chimney vent for the furnace, had died and blocked the chimney vent. So all the carbon monoxide was blowing into the house. He smelled something weird, the burning squirrel, and he was trying to get the smell out of the house. And he was so messed up and with brain damage that he didn't know any better and didn't have a carbon monoxide detector, didn't know what was going on. And had that not all happened, the entire family would have died. And you sit there and go, how close to having 4 people dead. And if it wasn't for Patty, just having that feeling, they would all be dead today. And you sit there and think, all because of a $25 carbon monoxide detector, they would have woken up hours before, when that squirrel would have blocked that thing, because those carbon monoxide detectors go off at 35 parts per million. And my detector goes off at 50 parts per million on my hip. And they had 400 parts per million in the house when I arrived. and 500 parts per million is deadly. So 500 parts per million for 4 minutes is deadly. So just a quick story. That's all I have. Thank you, everybody, for listening to my yapping. Appreciate it. Anyone have any questions? Anything EMS, fire related, anything about our funding, anything about staffing, anything I can answer for you? Anybody have anything?
I'll start with it, but thank you first of all for coming. We so
My pleasure.
appreciate it. Yes, makes me want to go home and make sure that my carbon monoxide detector is plugged in.
Just a little pitch. They only last 7 years. So if you've got one more than 7 years old, replace it.
Okay.
Smoke detectors, 10 years, carbon monoxide detectors, 7 years.
All right. All right.
It's my
Thank you.
pitch.
My question has to do with way back earlier in your talk. You talked about young people when COVID first became, sort of a national emergency and scare. That it was the younger people who sort of bailed out of their volunteer positions at first. I found that really curious. For a number of reasons. One, because young people tend to think they're invincible. Secondly, young people actually were more invincible in terms of their mortality from COVID than others. What did you make of that?
Maybe I should backtrack a little bit, and I don't want to reflect poorly on the young people in any way.
Oh, I don't mean it.
Remember that this is a total of only 10 people, and maybe 1 or 2 of our personnel that just kind of decided through all of their life experiences, they were maybe on the younger side, and why should I risk my life for it? And I didn't take it that they were bailing on us. It was more of a, I've got better things to do in my life. I'm young, and maybe this isn't the thing for me. And it was more of a realization that, wow, this isn't quite what I signed up for. More of a fun, come down here on a Sunday afternoon, spend some time with some friends, give back to the community. I didn't sign up to risk my life. That's what the firemen do. They run into burning buildings, those stupid idiots. And I'm on EMS. I don't need to risk my life. So there were a couple people like that. The vast majority, it was better job opportunities and family changes. So just a couple people. The majority of the volunteers all stuck around, and there really wasn't any talk of that bailing on the groups. I wouldn't want to try to misrepresent that at all.
So just a couple things. First of all, company I worked for had a salesperson who left the car running in their house, and unfortunately he and his wife passed away. So that really brought it home. Also with the young people, Board of Education, we had a lot of high schoolers come and say, look, aren't we physically more like adults than little children, and shouldn't we be worrying about it? So I think there was a legitimate fear. And the young people you're talking about were probably over 18. So
Yeah.
But my question is just, has the situation gone back to normal on the mask in terms of pricing and availability?
Things are improving. Yeah. Pricing is getting a little bit better and back closer to normal. We're not quite seeing quite the hoarding. We're not seeing quite the back order as long situations and stuff. So we're improving closer to what it was pre-COVID, but there still are some things that we're having trouble getting. But with the diligence of Sue and her crew and the wonderful stockpiling that we don't have near the close calls and scares of running out like we did early on. Anyone else? Yeah, Tom.
Just a quick observation, Jerry. I just wanted to, I think in this community, I mean, you can get divided opinions about a lot of things, but everybody is so proud of what our fire department and our EMS does. And we're so proud of you and Sue as representatives of that.
Well, thank you.
I know that's why we both have you in this Hudson High School Distinguished Hall of Fame, because we're all so proud of what you do to keep us safe and save our lives. It's just, we can't say enough. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to get to business. We're going to get to business. Okay. Each of you, most of you have a packet that was given to you this morning. I want to talk to you today a little bit just about some of the changes that we're going to make because we have made some changes over last year's gala. The most dramatic one is that actually this year, instead of having just one meal choice, you have 3. This year, if you want the beef choice, what you're going to get is 8 ounces of the tenderloin medallions. If you're wanting the seafood stuffed salmon, you'll get a 6-ounce portion of that. And then we also have a vegetarian option that is a risotto, a handmade risotto with grilled vegetables. We've also learned a little bit about, since last year was the first time that we did name tags, that the lanyards are rather troublesome at the time that we're distributing them. So this year we actually have name tags that have, just like our regular name tags, the little magnetic strips, which makes it a whole lot easier, So inside of your packets, for those of you that are seasoned, remember, this is our 37th anniversary of doing this. So, you know what to do. You've been given a list of the people who you're meant to contact, and I'd like to encourage you to do that contact in person. The person who probably has the largest list is Ron Strobel, and he delivers every single one of his letters to the people that he works with. And generally, he's seeing the same people year after year, and a relationship is built. And we know that many companies are now moving towards asking for donations online. And honestly, they don't want us to come and visit them. It makes it easier for them to say no. We also learned last year that we don't need to be so darn big. Traditionally, we had groups of almost 300 that were joining us at the Hilton Garden Inn, and we were crammed in there. The other thing was that we traditionally had well over 200 gift items. And we had a lot of them left at the end of the day. Last year, we had 118 silent auction items, and we had six that did not sell. We had 18 that sold significantly above the list price. So we learned a few things. We had 180 people come, and although we were a little crowded because we didn't have the outdoor tents, we made more money. It was the second highest gala that we'd ever had, and we cleared almost $48,000. I'm hoping to do the same thing again this year. Inside your packet on the left side is the list of the people that you've been assigned to contact. And for some of you, it might be 1 or 2 names. For others, it's a little bit more. Quite frankly, it's because these are people that you've seen in the past. On the letter itself, behind the list of names, is the letter that is being sent to the businesses. And those will be out before the weekend. And I need to thank my co-chair, Chris Barker, who's going to facilitate getting that done. Nobody does this alone. On the back side of that letter, you'll see what they gave last. If they gave in 2022, it'll indicate what that was. If the last gift was actually in 2019, it will say that. If there is nothing there, that means that this company has never given to us before. And there's a reason for that. Some of them, it's because they're brand new. They weren't in business last year. And this is a wonderful opportunity for them to put their name in front of an active community that is interested in their products. So on the right-hand side, you'll find the things that we traditionally have in our packets. There's an outline of the benefits, why the business ought to do this. The second thing is the Rotary News, a photographic summary of our activities over the year. And the last thing is a wonderful article that Jay Yard has already prepped and had published earlier this month in the Akron Beacon Journal. Like I said, nobody does this alone. We do this as a group. And I'm strongly encouraging you that if you have an issue with any of the people you've been assigned to contact, please let us know. We'll assign it to someone else. Okay, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to feel very confident going in and talking to your folks, and I want this to be a successful gala. Many of the smaller items we put together. So if someone can give us a $20 gift card, thank you very much. And we'll put it together with something else, and often do something like make a breakfast club, where we put 3 or 4 different offerings together, and it makes a nice silent auction item. At the front of your packet is the gala invitation. Everyone who attended the gala last year is going to get a mailed copy of this except for the Rotarians. So they will know that they're welcomed back. Inside of there is also a registration form that will allow them to choose what their menu selections are. A lot of people pay us by check. And so these invitations are for you as well. One for you, one for you to distribute to a friend or neighbor. This is the invitation, and I'd like you to take a look at the back side of it, please, because colleague has come back as our $5,000 donor. Thanks to Jim Lang and to Dan Filbert. We expect Akron Children's to get that check into us quickly. This facility, Resort Lifestyle Communities, is supporting us for the first time this year. Chris Barker's bank, the First National Bank, has come back again, and we have a wonderful donation from the Tom and Gail Tobin Family Foundation. If you have a business that has a tradition of supporting events like this, please let us know. Also, if you know of people who are interested in bringing a group, we have a table that they can purchase and sit together. This year, the pricing has been held exactly the same as it was last year. And so a charitable contribution for every ticket purchased is $55 to our bottom line right away. And so that's a really wonderful thing. So the only thing that I need to do at this point is to say thank you to the wonderful people who support us and work so hard working with the gala. And quite frankly, every single one of you is on the gala committee, and we all know that. So thank you. And we're asking for all donations to be turned in by April 30th, if possible. And we'll be looking for help the day of. We'll be looking for help the day of setting up, getting our name tags and everything set up. And especially at the end of the day, we'll be looking for Rotarians to help people take those treasures home. So yeah, it's going to be a good night. And I'm certainly hoping that you all can come and join with us. The food's going to be spectacular. We're having that great chocolate dessert with the raspberry coulis again, lovely salad. And it's just the fun of dressing up a little nicely, going out and seeing our friends in the community. So thank you again. And let's have a good gala. Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Please.
When can we start buying tickets? Is it on the website?
Thanks to Evan McCauley, the website is live now. We have actually the first person to buy tickets has already purchased their tickets. So yes, the website is live now. There is one thing that is not in your packet and it will be available next week. We had a little problem with the printer, not the printer person, the printer machine at Printers Devil. It went down and needed a software fix. These documents that we got printed through them arrived at my house at 4:30 yesterday afternoon. So, you know, we had to make a decision. What wasn't going to be in the packet because we knew we couldn't get all of it. And so the brochure will be available with the testimonials next week. And I would suggest that since our letters are going out yet this week, that review your packet, take a look at it. If there's something that you can't or are uncomfortable doing, communicate with us, and then let's move. Okay, let's move. Let's get this going. We are now about 7 weeks away from where we need to be. Thank you.
I wonder if you'd ever considered Printer's Angel. It might not have had the problem that Printer's Devil. There's just a thought, you know. I just, Chief, could you help us out with a selection of a raffle ticket here? Today's payout is $7, and the jackpot is 160.
Okay, the last three numbers, 129, 129.
129. Nobody? Ah!
That would be a back-to-back
Thank you.
win, fellas. Okay.
Here's your money.
Well, thank you.
All right. You'll see that there is indeed a black one in there.
Well, where is it? Oh, it's right there. Okay.
It's still there. Ah, alas. There we go. Well, again, our thanks to Chief Barnes and to Marilyn for all that you both have done today. Have a great day. Be great. Make a difference in somebody's life.